I think in these last three windows, outside of that first 45 minutes against South Korea and giving up the 2 goals, we've really seen the ideology flourish. And now the games speak to themselves, 5 games unbeaten. The one thing that I kept thinking about with Gio Reyna was, does he deserve the opportunity? And here's the reality. He does. Because if you're going to go through 71 players effectively in the calendar year to familiarize yourself with what this pool looks like, 71 players, well, then Gio deserves an opportunity. It's why he's grabbing the crest. It's not about the players. It's about the country. The players play for the country. The country doesn't play for the players. And I think that's what he's trying to continue to say and verbalize, is that at the end of the day, you got to understand, it's a privilege to play for your country.
Well, hi everybody, it's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we get together on a weekly basis and tackle things in the world of football we thought were interesting. I'm Tom Rennie, alongside me is the Pochettino whisperer himself. It's top MLS and US men's national team broadcaster, Brian Dunny Dunseth. Hello buddy, you all right?
I'm fantastic, Rennie. Quick update on the winter coat. I ended up putting it in my backpack. And
Good.
That's how I got through security and still was able to only use a carry-on as opposed to having to check bags. But I'm in a weird conundrum, right? So I've got a fifth metatarsal. I've got a screw in my fifth metatarsal. I've broken that twice. Then I got my hip done about a year and a half ago. So alarms are setting off no matter what. Then I fused the wrist. So the wrist has zero flex at this point. No more push-ups in my future. So I've got this thing. I left it in the other room. It's like an old school calisthenics. Like you put your arms around it and you squeeze your chest, and that's like your workout. Yeah. So I'm like old school, like 1970s style workout, right? The problem is it is setting off the alarm the moment that it goes through the machine every single time. So I am that guy that's slowing down the traffic because it's got to like lift it up and slide it over and put it down and put it out. And the guy comes over and he doesn't want to lift it because it's too heavy. And then he's got to go through. So I had to have this really delicate conversation in Tampa yesterday morning. And it's like 4:45 in the morning. Like it's early. And security's not too happy. They're back on work. They're getting paid. It's TSA. Thank you. But my man, I was like, before he opened it, I was like, excuse me, sir, can I make one like very quick request? And he's like, what? And by the way, the guy next to him has a buck knife like this big, just pulled out of the bag. So he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, big old buck knife. Like this ain't a knife, mate. It was like,
You flying with Crocodile Dundee? Like, what's happening here?
I like who brings a knife? Who brings a knife to an airport? Anyways,
Was it a spoon in the end?
no, it was a real knife, dude. I'm not joking. It was like this big, and the guy was like pissed, and he's like, "Well, you can't mail it. Do you want to drop it off in your car?" He's like, "I don't have the time to get to my car." And it was like one of those things, like, "Well, don't bring
You
a
can't
flipping."
take a knife through airport security. I mean, I
Anywhere.
know things are getting lax, but what are you talking about?
Well, I've seen a knife. I've seen a gun. This guy wasn't arrested, but the guy with the gun was arrested at LAX at like 4:15 in the morning earlier in the year. So like I see some characters. I see some characters. But so for the TSA guy, all I asked, I was like, my bag is extremely like tight. Like it is stuffed to the brim to the point where like I had to lay on it to like get it zipped because I've broken so many bags with zippers. So I'd ask the guy, I was like, hey, when you open it, I will like, it's on the left-hand side. The zipper's right there. It's literally the two things you look, kind of comes off as a little pipe bombish. So I can understand why they tag me. Well, because you have to disconnect the pieces and they're spring loaded.
We don't want that coming up in the algorithm. Don't say things like that on the program.
Well, I was letting them know. I said ish. And so he found it, put it back. Very nice. So I really appreciated the time. But the look on his face after he had glanced over and seen the dude had a knife, it became a really delicate balancing act. But by the way, I got to let you know, Rennie, we got a lot of people out there. From multiple people in Philadelphia, multiple people down in Tampa, multiple people here in Salt Lake City, even people on my flight from Philadelphia to Atlanta before I connected down in Tampa. For everybody out there listening, I know Rennie's a dick. Sorry, Tim. I know he hates Halloween. I know that he calls us all but he's a good guy at the end of the day. He's not as big of a...
that again? Every time I make that joke, we have to beep that. That's got to get beeped.
Sorry, Tim. Sorry, Tim. So yeah, listen, I just want you to know, Rennie, we have a lot of loyal listeners, and the word is spreading about Week in the Tackle. So as always, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, maybe reference a friend. If they got YouTube and you're at their house, just slide on down to Week in the Tackle and press subscribe, and bless the world for us two knuckleheads to come into your home. Also on Spotify as well, on all everywhere you can get all of all of your platform listening. So I really, really appreciate it. We had some good conversations and some really good people that would go out of their way just to stop by the set or to yell at me from the stands, something positive as opposed to something negative. So it was a good trip, man. Good couple days.
I want to ask you about the trip and what's been going on, plus this I'm not a janitor meltdown that Pochettino had, which I assume was caused by speaking to you 10 minutes earlier. But just on that, two quick
Factual
bits.
statement.
Number one, as if you've chosen to slag me off, I was doing the football show with our friend Jack Collins earlier today, and I was doing a joke about England, and I was singing It's Coming Home, and he said, you know, people find you insufferable, and I assumed he was talking about me. And it was like, no, I meant just England fans. I was doing a joke, and I was like, no, to be fair, it happens to me all the time. And the other thing, speaking of listeners, so thank you. We're mainly listened to in America, obviously, and we thank you for that. A top 60, top 50 podcast when it comes to soccer in the US, which we're fans of. We'd like to be top 30, frankly. So tell your friends and play it in the car. But we're actually in the top 20 in Russia. And I'm very appreciative of our listeners there, but I don't understand it. We're also very popular in Malaysia, where we're in the top 100, and to our listeners in Uganda as well, where we're in the top 100 last week as well. So thank you to our listeners in Malaysia, Uganda, Russia, America, the UK and beyond. Tell a friend about Week in the Tackle, where we don't just talk about like nonsense, we also do some football chat as well. And let's talk about the USA, who we've been waiting for our signature win. And I think both very impressive, the two victories in the last week against Paraguay and then the thumper over Bielsa's Uruguay, where 10 changes were made. You know what, before we get into the Pochettino janitor press conference, which is excellent, and I do want to talk to you about that, talk to us about what you experienced over the last week. You've been away with the camp. You've been talking to players, talking to coaches, talking to fellow journalists, and it all seems very positive right now for the US. You enjoy yourself? I mean,
listen, I think first and foremost, we have to acknowledge who wasn't in the camp, because Mauricio Pochettino has been pretty adamant about the crest over the individual. And I know we'll get into it, and I'll kind of explain my take on it, why. But I think it's for those that haven't been paying attention, the baseline of players not, for one reason or another, not included. We had Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Chris Richards, Tim Weah, Jedi Robinson, Malik Tillman, Matt Turner, Alex Zendejas, Yunus Musa, Johnny, who's at Atletico Madrid, who hasn't been called in these last three camps, Josh Sargent, and Patrick Ajiman. Those are the guys. Those are the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 guys that I would say are maybe the first 7 to 8 are always in contention. Maybe those afterwards we're going to keep an eye on, because they've had a history. And by that, I mean they've had a history of playing or being a part of the World Cup squad in 2022. And then we're talking about, since then transpiring, who are those kids that are pushing. For this particular group, I think the surprises were probably Joe Scally and Gio Reyna from Mönchengladbach, from Borussia Mönchengladbach, but for different reasons. For Joe Scally, it felt like maybe the switch to the back three wasn't going to benefit his player profile. Week in, week out, he puts in 90-minute performances. I would say a 6 to an 8 type of performance when he's playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach. But their ask is different. Their player, their tactical execution is a little bit different. Plus, there's that inevitable conversation from domestic football to international football. There's a jump of a level. But for Gio Reyna, I think listen, I've got a very soft spot for Gio as a player. Now, again, because of the way everything was handled in 2022, every time that Paul Tenorio or Henry Bushnell or anybody, Tom Bogert and Felipe Cardenas, anybody over at The Athletic that writes an article, there then becomes a 6-paragraph discussion about what transpired between Gio Reyna, Gio Reyna's parents, and Greg Berhalter, because it wasn't, I don't think it was, I don't want to say it wasn't handled right, because I don't feel like that's fair for me to judge,
it was a mess.
It could have been dealt with in a different way. hindsight 2020,
Could
that
not happen.
maybe would have alleviated some of the things that continuing to be brought up to the point where even now with Sebastian Berhalter, Greg Berhalter's
Yeah.
son, two kids that were very close to one another back in the day, now it becomes this weird like gotcha moment. Like, hey, how's the relationship? Well, we weren't really. And oh, but what about this? And then, it becomes uncomfortable. So again, it is what it is. But for Gio, it was a little bit different because Gio has obviously had the struggles because of the injuries, because of the managerial styles, because of the clubs at Dortmund or the loan to Nottingham Forest or now to Borussia Mönchengladbach. He hasn't been playing. And then you have this weird dichotomy of a conversation about wanting to be there, needing to recover, playing full amounts of minutes and impact opportunities versus, hey, we're working ourselves back in. In the recovery of injury, do you allow, or even like Johnny in particular at Atletico Madrid, do you leave him out because you want him to bet in? And maybe the international window can give him an extra 10 days in front of Simeone while the rest of the team pushes out and goes to the national team. There's so many. And what I will say, and I don't think this is stepping out of bounds, if you pull the curtain back from Mauricio Pochettino and his staff, and I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some really fascinating and interesting conversations that not only to do with the U.S. men's national team, but insight to their coaching career collectively.
Yeah.
They're on top of it. They pay attention to everything. The depth in which their not only knowledge but their activation as to why it's very methodical. This isn't like reactionary. Like they're not just like, oh, flat by the seat of my pants. Like they have a system. And I think we're seeing now, after what transpired in Nations League and what transpired in the buildup to Nations League, we are now seeing that system really flourish with how they with the way that they view what the national team should be. And again, it was a learning process for them coming from domestic football to international football. But I think in these last three windows, outside of that first 45 minutes against South Korea and giving up the 2 goals, we've really seen the ideology flourish. And now the games speak to themselves, 5 games unbeaten. And again, that second half against South Korea was when they went to the back three. They switched to the back three. So as we set the baseline for this, and we're talking about Gio in particular, the one thing that I kept thinking about with Gio Reyna was, does he deserve the opportunity? And here's the reality. He does. Because if you're going to go through 71 players effectively in the calendar year to familiarize yourself with what this pool looks like, 71 players, well, then Gio deserves an opportunity.
But didn't Pochettino say that he wanted to play players that were playing, and that was very critical to what he wanted? And Reyna don't play for no one.
Here's
played for 2 years.
But so here's the thing, Tom. I think we have to. This is just me. I have had to reassess the way that I'm taking his information and the way that I am assessing what I think the U.S. men's national team should be. Because what I've realized is that there's like a messaging that's been happening. And in real time, it looks like he's like effectively drawing the line in the sand. But I think overall, it's more of a messaging of not just to the players that are there, not just to justify why the players aren't there, but to remind players who aren't there what they need to do to get there. And for Gio in particular, he's had not a lot of minutes, right? He's like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 70 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And I would equate his injury issues very similar to what Christian Pulisic was going through at Chelsea, where it was stop-start. Am I a starter? Am I an impact sub? Because one of the things I talked to Christian about halfway through his first year with AC Milan, like, what's the difference? How are you so healthy all the time? He goes, I'm starting every game. Like, I'm playing 70 minutes and then coming off. I'm playing 90 minutes and I'm not sitting on the bench, going and warming up, then coming in, running my off. Sorry, Tim. And then having to do extra training the next day because I didn't play 30 minutes. Like my body's found a rhythm. And I think that's the one thing that you and I were talking about before he went to Nottingham Forest to play for Nuno and to challenge for Gibbs White in that number 10 was, is this going to be the moment where he starts matches and he's getting these type of rhythm? That's why I think Mönchengladbach is not the best opportunity, but maybe the most ideal if they can sort out their coaching and sporting director and kind of settle things down, because it's not a German football is incredibly competitive. I witnessed that when I was at Bayer Leverkusen, but it's not like top tier Champions League, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund every single day, right? So by giving him this opportunity, I think two things happen. Number one, it mimics what he did with Yunus Musa before Yunus Musa went back to AC Milan a year ago and started playing again. It mimics what he did with Flo Balogun when Flo Balogun was coming off the shoulder injury at Monaco, and he worked himself back and he used the U.S. men's national team performances to then start playing consecutively every single match starting. My hope is that this is a similar functional foundation for Gio Reyna to utilize. By the way, 78 minutes played against Paraguay was only the second time in the last 8 months that he's played more than 70 minutes in a
What?
game. That's how injured he's been.
That's incredible.
So that plus the cameo performance, what was it? I had it in front of me in my handy dandy notebook. Where was Gio? So then Gio got 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So he effectively got somewhere in that 98 minute to 100-minute range of international football. He was fantastic against Paraguay. I thought he was very effective coming off the bench against Uruguay. I like him more as a starter than an impact sub. But, you know, we talk about Christian, we talk about Weston, we talk about Malik Tillman, Alex Zendejas, Diego Luna, Tim Tillman, Malik Tillman's little brother, who's at LAFC, was fantastic and as solid as he is every single game at LAFC, because obviously I watch him pretty frequently because Max Brados and I call games. So all of a sudden, like, there's competition for spots. And what I said was, going back to the initial roster announcement, with guys like Christian and Tyler and Weston and Weah and Chris Richards and these guys, Matt Turner, not being here, the silver lining is that Mauricio Pochettino now knows that that team that played against Ecuador and played against Australia is one team. The team that played against Paraguay is another team. And the team that just absolutely walloped Uruguay. And everyone's like, that's their B team. Quick little reminder. Fede Valverde, Darwin Nunez, who I wouldn't even argue as a starter right now, Nico de la Cruz, and then Cáceres are the four players that you could, I mean, Fede, absolutely. But the other three, you would probably argue, are they a starter? Are you not a starter? The team that played against Mexico in Torreon at Santos Laguna, that Uruguayan team was set up to play that game. This Uruguayan team had 9 changes. This was his strongest group of players. And yeah, he sent home Palistri and he sent home Cáceres because they were injured and they couldn't go. But that team that played the other night, Bielsa came out afterwards and I saw it's their B team, it's the B team. Bielsa was not happy. And this is a guy who, when Kike Oliveira left LAFC and went back down to South America, he said publicly that Marcelo Bielsa said, you don't have the pressure at MLS that is going to allow you to make this team. So if you look at that group of players the other night, heavily MLS experienced or MLS graduates that are now playing over in Europe and abroad, that team absolutely out Uruguayed Uruguay at their own state. To see the way that they knocked out the verticality, that they matched the physicality, that they dealt with the overload of numbers, that their press was significantly higher than anybody expected, and they continued to confound and fluster Marcelo Bielsa to see. And by the way, Bielsa and Pochettino would literally tell you, whether it was Argentina, it was Rosario, it was Espanyol, that from a player's perspective, he played more games for Marcelo Bielsa than anybody else that he ever played. And he considers himself part of the Bielsa coaching tree. To see what that group of players did effectively. And again, I know this is where he hates it. We talk about first team, second team, third team. Oh, I know we'll get to it. But the fact that he utilized a third group of U.S. men's national team players, not named the Paraguay team, not named the Ecuador and Australia team. They're all very similar. They're all very plug and play. But I think what we saw was, if we put rating scales to it,
yeah,
we could maybe say one or two players made it really difficult for themselves to move on to that March window. But holy in a handbag, sorry, Tim, Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff are going to have major debates over who they're going to call in for that March window in Atlanta, because they have. It's going to be the intangibles, right? It's going to be like Sebastian Berhalter, corner kicks and set piece quality service, and those type of goals. It's going to be Tanner Tessman, that type of frame, that type of header. Is that the intangible that gets him in over maybe an Aiden Morris? Because on set pieces, both defensively and offensively, he's got something a little bit, like Diego Luna, you can play him as a 10. Now you can play him on that left-hand side. Plus, he's an impact player off the bench. Like all of these things are really, really fascinating. So, yeah, I've never felt when we go from how U.S. soccer fans felt in March, April, May to where we're feeling right now, it's a completely different atmosphere. And a lot of that has to do with, I think, the messaging and the culture that's been set from Mauricio Pochettino and his staff.
See, I do find that really interesting. I think you can tell from listening to people and listening to you that there is a positivity, and you can see things are going in the right direction, and the change from last year to this year, and all that. I get that, and I get there's some justification for using 71 players. I don't think any other nation in that time has used 71 players. That's a bit wild.
There's also a January window where it's really heavily MLS
you have
based
cupcakey thing, don't you? Know that sort of stuff.
We call it Camp Cupcake. Yep, I've been a part of plenty of them.
Yes, that's it. But like the bit that's then weird on top of it, and it's made quite big news over here in England, is the press conference and the sort of weird breakdown he had with our friend Paul Tenorio of The Athletic. And I think you'd spoken to him previously before this. And look, I always say this with managers, is that it's such a slog after a game. And we've got a weird system in this sport where you do an interview almost immediately. These days, sometimes on the field. Once you've done that, you go into a corridor and have some more interviews. Then once you've done your TV, you do non-live TV. Yeah. And then when you've done non-live TV, you do radio. And then after radio, you do a press conference. So after speaking to your players for maybe like a minute, you then do 30 or 40 minutes of press after press after press after press. And like I've done both. I know you've done it as well, Dunny, for a living, but like just for our listeners, I've done it where you speak to him directly afterwards, 10 minutes afterwards, and 30 minutes afterwards. And in those, if you've spoke to a manager who's lost 4-0 and you're now in the written press conference and someone asked the same question someone asked you 30 minutes ago, they're obviously going to be, a bit humpy, a little bit annoyed, or they get the ump about something, or they're just doing the same lines again. So I'm just using that context to say that's what happens when you lose 5-1. Yeah. When you win 5-1, having a really good camp, and people are like puffing you up. People are puffing up Pochettino right now because it's going really well, and that's understandable when you're winning. Off a great victory, off the back of what I thought was an even more impressive victory a few days later, to then have this sort of breakdown, people who said it's lost in translation, and I do have some sympathy for that because...
It's not.
No, but I'm just saying that I understand why people are trying to do that, because sometimes this happens. I don't think this is that. I think Poch speaks incredible English, and in fact he used it as a bit of a cudgel when he was at Southampton for years, pretending that his English wasn't great when we all knew his English was better than most of the English people that I know. So I'll just read this little bit, and I wanted to see what you think about the whole thing. So he says this, quote, he was asked about regulars. What does a regular player mean? You're not using your regulars, or words to that effect from Paul Tenorio, to which he responds, quote, "My question is, maybe we need to stop the press conference and I need to go to the dressing room, come back and start the press conference again. Because it's like we're the opposite, losing 5-1. I'm the USA coach, not the janitor. Tell me which regular player we are talking about, because I don't understand what regular player means." And you've sort of covered a lot of this already in terms of, using different sort of players, but it seemed almost, I don't think it is this as well, maybe you know more than me, of course, but it almost seemed like personal. It seemed like he took the question really personally and went off on a weird sort of rant and made the atmosphere quite negative to what was actually quite a positive experience. So give us your view on that and tell us what you said to him before that really pissed him off.
Well, I've got to be honest. I do have a verifiable history of asking questions that definitely get people going. And I've been told to stop asking questions like before the press conference is about to start. And it's become a bit of a joke, but I don't think they mean it as a joke at this point, but I take it as a joke. I think I think, again, we need to set the table for those that haven't been paying attention. The reality is that since the failure to qualify in 2018, we have seen significant turnover in U.S. soccer. We've seen the departures of the likes of Tim Howard, of Aguchi Onyewu, Carlos Bocanegra, Michael Bradley, Jermaine Jones, Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, Josie Altidore, Steve Cherundolo, DeMarcus Beasley. Some really massive foundational names of U.S. soccer in the last generation. And I would equate that generation as the generation that replaced the likes of Casey Keller and Brad Friedel and Tony Meola, Alexi Lawless, Marcelo Balboa, Tab Ramos, John Harkes, Eric Winalda, like Ernie Stewart. Like we went from my first generation when I got in the U.S. men's national team, which were all those guys I just named, the old school, playing with Alexi at club and country and Marcelo and being in all those camps. And then and Claudio Reyna and not trying to forget any of them. But then that 94 to 98 group then morphed into the Bruce Arena era, which was always going to be Tim Howard and Brad Guzan. It was always going to be Aguchi Onyewu and Carlos Bocanegra and Beasley on the left and Trundle on the right and Michael and Jermaine in the middle. And then you had Landon and you had Clint and you had Josie and you had all of these incredible footballers. And again, a generational talent. But then when 2018 hits and we fail to qualify, everyone was screaming from the rafters to burn everything down to the ground. And that's what happened. I mean, effectively, Sunil Gulati's out at U.S. Soccer. Bruce Arena steps down. And Dave Sarachan took over for a while as the transition process behind the scenes happened. And we went to vote for new U.S. Soccer president, where you saw the likes of Carlos Cordero, which was, the assistant for Sunil, from Kyle Martino stepping away from NBC Sports and Premier League coverage to try to be the president. Eric Winalda, Hope Solo. I mean, you had a lot of big personalities. To the point where even then the functionality of that has now changed to Cindy Parlow-Cone. So and JT Baston, and you went from Ernie Stewart and Greg Berhalter, to now Matt Crocker and Oguchi Onyewu and Mauricio Pochettino. So you have, like, basically what I'm trying to show you is like this movement that's happening.
Yeah.
And in this movement,
how does that lead to Pochettino being rude in the press conference?
No, I'll get there.
It's like a novel. I wanted a novella.
Well, because people in Russia need to understand what's been happening here at U.S. Soccer. People in Uganda need to understand. So as I bring all these data points, we have a golden generation of players, and it's okay. Like this whole thing of like, I feel so uncomfortable talking about the golden generation. Listen, the reality is that the guys like Tim Weah, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, Chris Richards, these type of players have all utilized the success of the previous two generations, have benefited off the backside of their names and their work to see not just the guys like Alexi Lawless scoring in the World Cup and using that as a jump off to get to Padova and playing Serie A and score goals against AC Milan and Inter Milan, not just to see Brad Friedel be the goalkeeper at Liverpool and Galatasaray, not just to see Casey Keller, at Mönchengladbach and at Fulham, not just to see, guys like Clint Dempsey or to see Carlos Bocanegra or to see Tim Howard or to, Tim Howard going to Manchester United as a kid. Like, what are we talking about? Or to see Landon have the incredible career he had here in the United States. And, guys like Tony Meola and Preki and Tab starting MLS. So the reason why I say that is because those six players that I named, the Christian Pulisics, the Weston McKennies, the Tim Weahs, the Tyler Adams, the Chris Richards, all those type of guys, they or even like the dual nationals like Flo Balogun or Yunus Musa, like those type of guys that we've been able to bring into the system. What we've now seen is a group of players that, and by the way, I should talk about Michael Bradley as a reference point, because Michael Bradley has the career path that from New York, just as a respect thing, New York, New Jersey Metro Stars to Heerenveen to Mönchengladbach, a split second in Aston Villa, to go over to Italy and to play for Rome, end up playing for Roma, and then to come back to MLS. Like, these are the paths for me as an American. Like, I only wished I could have had. I didn't have that opportunity. It was like I wasn't good enough, and that pathway wasn't ready yet. So to see all these guys have these chances and to be playing at Chelsea's and lifting Champions League trophies, to be playing at Juve's, to be coming through all the different systems of PSG and Lille, and go play at Lyon or to play at Bournemouth and RB Leipzig, or now to beat Chris Richards and lift, 2 cup trophies against Man City and Liverpool. The reason why we're referencing them as regulars is because of their domestic success that they've had And us thinking here in the United States, you're a kid that starts in club soccer, and as you work your way up, you either find your success in MLS or you bypass MLS, and then you continue your like what's happening with Aiden Morris versus what's happening with Sebastian Berhalter, like or Ajiman versus Ricardo Pep. Like these are all data points. So my point being, as I set the table up for that, that's why Paul Tenorio, a very non-malicious, non-aggressive question to talk about regulars, it's because that's the way we view those guys that aren't here. Those are the regulars. The Christian Pulisic's, the Tyler Adams, the Weston McKennie's, the Timmy Weahs, those are the regulars. So whether he likes it or not, that's the reality of the way we see it. So that's why when he gets flustered and he gets frustrated and it becomes tense, is because he's trying to change the narrative, because he's trying to remind us, and he'll use Argentina's experience with Argentina, his experience coaching Messi, right? But to say, like, when we have, do we have a superstar? We have one superstar. His name's Christian Pulisic. One elite superstar. And the rest are somewhere in this. And I see, that's the crazy part, Rennie. The way that you guys view him versus the way that we view him are drastically different. Yeah. He's on every front page. He's on, you cannot have a conversation about the U.S. men's national team without Christian Pulisic.
If he was good, it'd be amazing.
Because the reality is when he's on the team, when he's on the field, he makes everybody better. That's the reality when it comes to the U.S. men's national team. So he could be setting up Nicholas Füllkrug at Milan soon as well. That could be good. What a team they could be. Yeah,
what a pair.
Yeah. Huh? Look at you. Wishing just goodness into the world as usual. Okay, so I'll finish this. I understand what he's saying. I can understand because of what happened in March, what happened at Nations League, what happened heading into the Turkey and Switzerland game that starts the Gold Cup. He's trying to continue to say, it's why he's grabbing the crest. It's not about the players. It's about the country. The players play for the country. The country doesn't play for the players. And I think that's what he's trying to continue to say and verbalize, is that at the end of the day, you got to understand, it's a privilege to play for your country. And we use Messi's and we use Ronaldo's and we use Harry Kane's and all those guys. And you guys are dealing with Thomas Tuchel and everything that's surrounding the Jude Bellingham conversation right now. You guys are in that, you're in that conversation, but for a different reason.
But Bellingham's a regular and Morgan Rogers isn't. I don't know why you'd have the ump about that. I take your point entirely about the narrative and the first team, the strongest team, the second team, and a growing nation. Yeah. I take all that. I buy all of that. But I do still think there is something weird about this odd reaction to the fact that, like, if you play one team in the FA Cup and one team in the league at the weekend, you obviously have a team of regulars and you obviously have a team that are at that point the second string. At times, Potter's been a sub and he's been a player. Like, I mean,
it's messaging. I take your point.
I have no answer, but like it just seemed weird.
Listen, it caught me off guard.
Football parlance, right?
So we get off air. We have a 30-minute post game. We get off air. We're heading to the locker room to grab our stuff. My phone's blowing up. My phone's blown up immediately about it. And obviously I have a very close relationship with Paul Tenorio. I consider him a very good friend. I feel like I've got a great relationship with Pochettino and his staff. Like they've been amazing to me with the way that, we've kind of cultivated this interesting dance of getting to know each other and trust and like insight and all of these things that, analyzing games, things that I think they've done right, things that I think they've done well, players that they've chosen, players that I don't think maybe deserve that opportunity. All like we've even, moments where I know that they're paying attention. I know, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd listen to this podcast at some point. Like they pay attention to everything. Yeah. What's up, Jesus, Mickey, Tony? What's up, guys?
Have you been on holiday to Uganda recently? Because I think we know why we got the figures there now.
But my point being, I think what he's trying to say is that, boys, don't stop pushing. Don't stop pushing. Club, country, standard, expectations. I think he looks at body language. I think he looks at camaraderie. I think he looks at communication. I think he looks at desire to push. I could even imagine psychologically option days in the gym, just let you know, like if you want to use it, it's there. And then like a little peek around the corner, like, yo, who showed up? Like even to like who's at trainings, like for us as media members, like he is acutely aware of everything. So He and his staff, sorry, are acutely aware of everything. So I think right now we've got this unique balance of his words and holding him to every single word, full stop, black and white, no gray area whatsoever, versus his actions. And then the way that he's addressing the culture, I think he's trying to tell these guys, the guys like, let's say, Austin Trusty, John Tolkien, Aiden Morris, Sebastian Berhalter, Tim Tillman, like, you want it? Do you want it? And then maybe the other night he's looking at Miles Robinson, Joe Scally, Tim Ream, Tanner Tessman, Christian Roldan, Brendan Aronson, Ricardo Pepi. Do you guys want it? What are you going to do? Do you guys want it? So
it is a little bit Mikel Arteta saying he's got two number ones, being Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya. When it was evident David Raya was the number
but he
one.
hasn't said it. But he hasn't said it. That's the best part. I think he's smart enough not to say it. I think he's smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
But
anything else on the US? A couple of quick bits I wanted to ask you before we're out of time today. Anything else on the trip? Did you eat anything good? Did you go anywhere good? Did you see anything good?
I had a great dinner. Yeah, I had a great dinner. There's an ongoing joke.
Should I move on?
No. There's it was called like I think it's called Meat Market in Tampa. So our coverage on Turner, the U.S. Women's National Team, for some reason, Sarah Walsh and Melissa Ortiz, they do both. They do the men's and the women's. And they love sending me videos. They love sending me videos of Julie Foudy and the ladies. And they're at these dinners and there's sparklers and there's like tomahawk steaks and all this stuff. And I'm like, every time we were going on the U.S. men's national team stuff, it was like, hey, where you guys want to go for dinner? Starbucks? Like, you guys want to go to Starbucks? Like, grab dinner? Like, it was like disproportionate to the point where it was like,
why haven't you? Who's getting the budget here? Is someone else getting the budget?
The women's team had the budget. So we still get our per diem. Like Turner treats me amazing from Deaton and Trace and like Ann, everybody. They're amazing. All my bosses. Love you. But so it was like a joke. So finally,
give us better food.
So
stop making it make crisps on the side of the road.
So finally,
like
we
some
get
sort
this
of homeless hermit.
So
give them out some protein. Turner. Sorry.
Oh, just wait. So Tracy, our one of our beloved leaders, Tracy Snyder, love her to death. She sends out an email and is like, dinner 6 p.m. Monday night, Tampa. And then I start getting the text messages like this dinner's for you, Dunny. Like specifically, this dinner is for you.
Oh.
And we roll into this dinner, and I got Brad Guzan to my right. I've got Luke Wildman to my left. It's Sarah. Like, it's story time. Sparklers are coming out. The wine's flowing. Like $200. Like real incredible wine. Like the platters. There's I mean, there was everything on there. There's anything from like oysters to claws the size of my hands. Like, it was amazing. I got me a tomahawk. Like, it was amazing. But so they started putting it up on, like, sending it to the girls. We were having a great time laughing. To Julie and everybody. And so it's like, hey, like the big joke was like, Dunny, fine. Because every time they'd send it, I'd be in the middle of a broadcast. And I would like send back Bruce Arena GIFs to them, like of how disgusted I was at their actions and how they were just relentlessly teasing me. So it was my turn. It was amazing. The dinner was fantastic. So much so that when the sparklers came out, and they were going nuts, I was like blowing them towards Brad, and I'd start blowing them towards Luke, and then I'd start whipping them towards Brad. And everyone thought it was my birthday. So I probably got like 50 messages like, happy birthday, dude. I thought your birthday was in March. Like, and so it was a big joke. So to end the year right, 2025, after an amazing FIFA Club World Cup experience, the Turner family was amazing. That dinner, if you ever get down there, I believe it was called Meat Market. Phenomenal storytelling. The jokes were flying left and right, and it was probably one of, outside of, I think, our experience in Columbus, like when we had those great nights out where people were saying, when I had to tell you, like, Rennie, don't say that again, and you're like, what did I say? And I was like, don't say that word. And you kept saying that word.
Don't say that on the podcast. Don't say
and
on the
you kept
podcast.
saying that word, and I was like, stop saying that word.
They're going to come round to my way of thinking. I'm not going to come to them. They're going to come down to me.
It was one of those nights. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. And by the way, don't walk to Ybor City. Hadn't been to Tampa in 20 years. I thought it would be a simple walk. with a guy chasing another guy on a bicycle that then pulls out a knife, and the guy's chasing the third guy's running with two boxes of M&Ms, one regular M&Ms, the other peanut M&Ms.
What?
There's weird stuff happening. Just be a little bit more careful. Unlike me, the knucklehead that just loves to walk and explore the city. 10 miles in, my burst of change of direction and my burst of pace was tested significantly when I saw that coming in my direction. And the text was, "Get in the Uber right away, you effing idiot. Why would you walk?"
Why would you do that? And then
So
you
it
saw
was
that man with the knife at the airport a few hours later, so that was good.
that no, wasn't him.
The same
Different,
guy.
different guy.
Following you.
No, it was a different guy. Different guy.
Is he in the house now? So we could be in the house. The call is coming from inside the house. It's Tampa, man.
Yeah,
Good
good
trip.
experience, man. Great
Good
trip.
trip.
Great trip.
Well, more to come on the US men's national team as we get down to the World Cup, which is inexplicably only 6 months away at this point, which is somewhat wild. And speaking of that's my other question to you on the World Cup. I've got two other quick bits I wanted to touch on with you before we're out of time today. So we're up to 41, I think, nations that have qualified. There's still a few playoffs to happen and whatnot. We could still get Ireland. We could still get Jamaica. There's a few other teams that are in playoffs that were drawn today as we record this. There's a few good stories, though. We've had, like, Uzbekistan have qualified, and Qatar have qualified again. The Saudis have qualified.
Haiti. That's an amazing
qualified.
one. Yeah.
Scotland qualified in incredible circumstances. New Zealand are going to be there, which is a great story. And I guess I just wanted to get your view on the fact we're having the expanded World Cup. And there are going to be lots of positives to it. Like the Scotland story is fantastic. The Scottish Rennie WhatsApp with the Scottish family has been blowing up massively with the Alistair Lamont BBC Radio Scotland commentary, literally being sent on the hour every hour for the last 2 days. And I guess it's gonna keep on coming to me from Uncle Jim and the guys. But so it's great they've made it. And the carousel story is great with Dick Advocat, and you mentioned Haiti as well, and I want to get your view on that. But I guess, because I do suck the life out of everything, as you know from being at dinner with me, is too big? Is it getting a little bit big now? If there's too many qualifiers, there's going to be 104 odd games, I think, at the World Cup, which I guess is, it's great, but also, should Haiti be at the World Cup?
They should.
Should it be at the expense of another nation in a more stringent qualification process?
Yeah, I mean, they should. I mean, getting past Costa Rica and never being able to play at home. I mean, it's an incredible story. And I remember, a couple of Gold Cups ago, there was an incredible run from a Haitian squad. And again, you think about the representation of a country for a group of players that can't even go back to play in Haiti. Because of the political climate and tension and everything that's transpiring down there, is a story into itself. And I think that's going to be, I think that journey for Haiti at the World Cup will be one of an amazing documentary at some point, considering all that's said and done. To your point, Max Brados and I were talking about this the other week because the U.S. under-17s were participating in the World Cup over in Qatar. It's so many games.
Yeah,
so many games. So
hard to get across from a consumer perspective as well. Is that right? You're like, what game? When is it?
Yeah, it's you are. If how do I obviously it's under 17s different because if you're tuning in, you have a reason to tune in, or you're a psychopath. Like you're just a soccer psychopath.
Or you're doing the commentary and
you're getting paid for it.
Your wife has to watch it because you're doing it.
Yeah.
Which is why my wife has watched your reserve team football over the years.
100%. So listen, I'm intrigued to see what this is going to look like. Functionally, it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see how the coverage looks for us as broadcasters.
Yeah.
The job opportunities.
You've got to build that narrative, haven't you? You've got to build that narrative
100%.
for viewers. And
why?
When it's 16 teams, I can do it. When it's 32, just about. At 48, I want to watch the carousel story. But if there's 48 nations in it, by the time I've watched Japan, I've watched South Korea, am I also going to watch that as well?
Well, and so
should that matter, I guess, as well, because it's for the people of Haiti. Right?
Yeah, no, listen, I think it's going to be a generational memory. I was saying this the other day. I mean, for me, being a kid in Southern California, and donating my time working at the LA Convention Center, and the hype around the World Cup was incredible. I was 16 years old. I wasn't getting a ticket. My parents couldn't afford tickets. I would drive down to the Rose Bowl just to be around the Rose Bowl. Like I would literally park in the neighborhood, walk into the gully, and just be around the stadium for some of the not even the U.S. men's national team because I would stay at home to watch the game because I just wanted to watch the game, but just to be around the stadium to see that like it's a generational point in my mind that then a year or two later I'm sitting at the Rose Bowl watching Tony Meola and the New York New Jersey Metro Stars kick off the first game against LA Galaxy and Kobe Jones and everything that happened. So it's like, for me, these are data. Even last night, Micah, my middle boy, is like, Dad, are we going to the World Cup? And I said, nope. He goes, why? And I said, can't afford it. I'm not going to be able to afford it. 10 grand a ticket? No fucking chance. Sorry, Tim.
We should talk about that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah.
And you
Follow
can't
the
even
queen.
guarantee what seat it's going to be in at the moment.
Follow the queen. So yeah, listen, I there's going to be some amazing, amazing moments. But my fear is also, having done the FIFA Club World Cup, you're also going to get some like Bayern Munich, Auckland City type games where I mean, here's the thing, like we haven't really talked about it. Like you're going to have like some goal scorers that potentially are going to end up double-digit goal scorers at the World Cup.
Oh,
like
Harry
easily.
Kane going to do some serious padding.
He could have like 18 goals when it's all said and done, depending on.
You can't drag him off against Liechtenstein.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Gotta rest him. Like, F you, bro. I mean, you see these Comfort Plus slippers I got for sitting on my shoes? That's a bonus structure right there. So yeah. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah,
we'll find out.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be some interesting storytelling. Fox over here has a big job to do in terms of getting us ready for kind of, I would term them like, for football we have a pep football, we call them mighty mites. It would be like for the mighty mites that we're going to see during the World Cup.
I don't know what that means. The mighty mites.
So it's like an age group of like little like American footballers, like football players, sorry, like helmets and pads. They're the little guys. So mighty mites.
Or like a little kickers thing. That's
yeah, like little kickers. Right, okay, there you go. Little kickers. More footballish.
Yes, okay. One final quick thing, only because we ain't going to be doing this on our Monday show, and it's never going to come up again, but we did row about it for 40 minutes last we were together, so I thought I'd just bring it up briefly here. Bearing in mind, we only want to do a couple minutes here, because we've done the whole show now, but this is from our friend Dale Johnson, these days at BBC, formerly ESPN, of course, the rules analyst sort of guy.
He's great.
I don't know if this will trigger you or not, so I'm going to read you a little bit. Liverpool's controversial disallowed goal at Manchester City was correctly not overturned by a video assistant review, an expert panel has ruled. However, the Premier League's key match incidents panel, which reviews the big refereeing decisions each week, was split on the decision. The 5-person panel voted 3-2 that the on-field decision to disallow the goal was incorrect, but also found that the VAR was correct not to intervene. So in summation, they can prove they got it wrong, but they were right not to correct it. Thoughts?
Drives me fucking bonkers. Sorry, Tim. I like, what are we doing? I mean, it just feels like we're watching a group that's covering their backside to justify the value in their decision making when every single one of them knows that the decision was wrong.
Yeah. Why were they right not to correct it if they could prove that it was wrong? Like,
because they're trying to say, Rennie, they're saying that the way that they applied the law of the game based on the way the rule was written was in the account of how the functionality of getting to the decision was correct. That's it. It's the functionality of how they got to that decision based on the wording on the book or on the website, and that's how they were supposed to interpret and apply it. The reality, though, is that they're saying, but because of his eyes, because he never saw him, and because he never made a genuine attempt to play the ball other than getting the out of the way, sorry, Tim, but again, not in front of Donnarumma, that the goal should have stood. So I guess I'm right, even though they're right, yes. And then they're right, but I'm definitely right. That's all I know.
It was just like, it just reminded me, like I read that sentence about 8 times before the podcast today just to try and get it right, because it's so wild. The 5-person panel voted 3-2 that the on-field decision to allow the goal was incorrect, but also found the VAR was correct not to intervene, thereby making the original ruling incorrect. It's like trying to deal with my 2 children and just like, you can both have it, you're both right, when they argue if one of them said poo-poo or chop-chop. And it's like, no. Which one are you talking about? You're both right. It's both poo-poo and chop-chop, guys.
Rennie.
You're both right. Just get in the car. Get in the car.
Rennie, this is that one dip friend. Sorry, Tim. That's my last one. We all have him or her. We all got that one person.
It's Tim for us.
Poor Timmy. I had this kid.
Sorry, Tim.
I had a friend named Adolfo. He lived with me. He was a teammate of mine in Salt Lake. And one time he was telling this story about Hugh Hefner because he was at UCLA. And he was like, yeah, I was supposed to coach Hugh Hefner's kid, but it didn't never happen. And I was like, how was training? And he goes, I just told you it didn't never happen. I was like, yeah, but how was the training? And he goes, are you dumb? I told you it didn't never happen. And so it didn't happen or it never happened. But when you're saying it didn't never happen, it's the double negative. So I'm assuming it happened. Yeah. And he was locked into this circle, this vicious web of a cul-de-sac that he couldn't get out because he couldn't for the life of him understand that when he said it didn't never happen, that my assumption was he's an idiot and it did happen. So yeah, poor Adolfo. Love him.
Yeah, you don't want to get involved in a circle with Hugh Hefner. That's a whole thing.
What?
That's the lot. You don't want to get involved. Maybe you do. Depends on the context. You know who Hugh Hefner's favourite player is? Robin Koch. Robin Koch. No? No?
Beep.
That was Week in the Tackle for this week in our US Men's National Team special. That's Brian Dunseth over there, friend of Pochettino. I'm Tom Rennie, friend of no one. Tim Horsey produced the programme. Subscribe to the show if you're on Spotify. Do it on Apple, vice versa. Watch on YouTube as well. Subscribe there, tell a friend, and we shall see you next week.